After the set photos from Superman revealed our first good look at the suit, a lot of people kept on posting about how good this version of Superman would look next to Robert Pattinson's The Batman. The contrast between the two is perfect, with Superman's bright colors on a superhero costume and Batman's dark colors on an armor-based suit, perfectly encapsulating the world's finest dynamic of two heroes with drastically different approaches to the same goal. And actually, while I was in the middle of making this video, I saw this where James Gunn liked this comment about somebody asking what he thinks about David Corenswet's Superman and Robert Pattinson's Batman being put together in fan art, which might be a hint, I don't know. But at least for now. If you don't know, this is not supposed to end up coming to fruition. The Batman universe is intended to remain separate and be known as an Elseworlds, while the DCU introduces its own much more experienced but not actually that much older version of Batman in The Brave and the Bold, coming out simultaneously with the Batman movies. Then, I'm sure to differentiate between the two Batman, it seems likely that the DCU Batman will adopt a brighter color scheme, maybe a blue color scheme, and a different suit concept, which for all intents and purposes can certainly work really well. That being said, I think having two live-action Batman at the same time will likely be confusing for general audiences. And then, with how great The Batman turned out, how great the casting is, and there already being an established Gotham with its own aesthetic, I do still think that it was a missed opportunity to not incorporate the Batman into the DCU, and at this point, it's not quite too late to do exactly that. In this video, I'll be looking at how well the world of the Batman could fit into what we know about the DCU, and how it would affect things. For instance, instead of there being of the Batman Part 2 and The Brave and the Bold, there will be one movie called Batman the Brave and the Bold. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to help me get to 100,000 subscribers. And let's begin. As of right now, if I had to guess, I think the timeline of the DCU Batman will look like it'll be at least a decade long as of the release of The Brave and the Bold, because he's up to his fourth Robin, Damian Wayne. If we were to incorporate the timeline of the Batman, the timeline would be cut in half. Bruce Wayne was born in 1991 and debuted as Batman in the year 2020, at 28 or 29 years old. In this case, if James Gunn's statement that Clark will be the same age as David Corenswet is true, then Bruce would be only 2 years older than Clark. It would then most likely condense the timeline of the entire modern age of heroes compared to what I would have expected, down from what I would have expected to be 10 years, just like Batman, to just 5, as of the events of Superman, since otherwise Batman would not be one of the earliest heroes, which would be weird. That is, right there, one of the most problematic parts of incorporating the Batman into the DCU. This would be that a world where Batman debuted just 3 years before Jaime Reyes became Blue Beetle, and then, unless Ted Kord's career was super short, that probably would mean that Ted Kord debuted before Batman. Batman would then have debuted at most 1 year before Peacemaker, and at most 2 years before Vigilante and Judo Master. Those last few are a bit weird to think about, but I would not say they're universe breaking. It does kind of seem like in the Batman there's no other heroes in this world, but that's never actually stated, and the movie takes place entirely within Gotham. It's entirely possible that there are things out there, outside of Gotham, that we don't know about, and maybe Blue Beetle and Superman are just some of them, so none of this is universe breaking. It's a bit weird at times, but it could mostly fit. What would be a bit weird is that Batman debuted in 2020, but then during the events of the Suicide Squad, Harley Quinn is already around, and not only a member of the squad, but also this is not her first mission. Batman and Joker do already have a history during the events of the Batman, so it's entirely possible that Harley maybe debuted very early into the Batman timeline, like maybe during the entire first year of Batman's career. Joker debuted, he went to Arkham, and then he turned Harleen Quinzel into Harley Quinn, and then like early 2021, she went to prison, she was recruited to the Suicide Squad, and then she had one mission, and then the second mission was the Suicide Squad. That all happened in just 1 year, which again is really weird, and it doesn't entirely fit 100%, but it doesn't not fit 100% either. All the other Batman villains who appeared in the Suicide Squad, or will appear in Creature Commandos, aren't strictly connected to Batman or any of the other The Batman characters, and frankly, The Batman has villains to spare. Characters like Polka Dot Man and Dr. Phosphorus could have simply just been apprehended by some other hero. This version of Batman is very grounded in year 2, but there's no reason he couldn't go on to face more fantastical enemies later on, just not prior to the events of the Batman, which is why Polka Dot Man and Dr. Phosphorus, they don't quite fit in. From there, the appearance of Captain Boomerang in the Suicide Squad suggests that the Flash became active before 2021 as well, which would set him up as having debuted around the same time within like a year of the Batman. Mongal appearing suggests Superman has been around long enough to venture into space already, maybe suggesting he debuted before Batman are also around the same time. Then again, all of this is from the Suicide Squad, which is only loose canon, so any inconsistencies can easily just be explained away. Hal Jordan will be known as a Green Lantern Corps legend as the events of Lanterns, which will be like 2026 or 2027, and I think 6 or 7 years would be enough to cultivate that status, so it's entirely possible that he also debuted in 2020, around the same time as Batman, Superman, and The Flash. Then all the other early Justice Leaguers like Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, and Green Arrow don't really have any details about them or their timeline revealed, so it's entirely possible that all of those early Justice Leaguers, plus Ted Kord as Blue Beetle, all debuted around the years 2019, 2020, 2021, and all have been active around 4 to 6 years, as of the events of Superman. So I think when it comes to all of the characters debuting around the same time and fitting the Batman into the DCU timeline, as of what we know so far, that part works. The part that doesn't work is obviously The Brave and the Bold. It's in development with Andy Muschietti attached as director, and it's intended to introduce Damian Wayne and an already established Bat family, which would have to be completely changed in this situation. While The Brave and the Bold has been confirmed to introduce the 4th Robin, it's only been rumored that the first one will be introduced in The Batman Part 2, as Dick Grayson might appear as Robin. Then, instead of an already established Bat family being introduced, the DCU would need to establish one from the start, as Batman would also be a lot earlier into his career. The Batman Part 2, which I'm now retitling to Batman the Brave and the Bold, is releasing in 2026, 4.5 years after Part 1, and in my version of this movie, they would take the opportunity that this big time gap gives them to skip over Dick Grayson's origin, because it's an origin that's difficult to tell in live action given Dick Grayson's age. So the origin happened a while ago, and he's actually already been Robin for 2 or 3 years, and he's fairly experienced. I'd say he'd be around 15 or 16 years old at this point. This would then set him up to be replaced by Jason Todd down the line, as he maybe goes off to the Teen Titans and then becomes Nightwing. But obviously we'd be far away from characters like Tim Drake and certainly far away from Damian Wayne. It would affect the Batgirls as well, as instead of Cassandra Cain, who is confirmed for the DCU, her debut would be pushed off a lot, and Barbara Gordon would be also a teenager instead of an adult and would be the DCU's Batgirl, and would remain so for a while. It is definitely the Robin of it all that would affect the DCU the most, as it's not just the Robins and Batgirls that are affected, but also like every single sidekick and the Teen Titans, since every generation of the sidekicks kind of always revolves around the Robin. After the Teen Titans movie was announced, I made a video going over what I'd like the lineup to look like, and spoiler alert, the lineup I went with surrounded Damian Wayne. Characters like Wally West, Donna Troy, and Starfire were not included because I felt like they needed to be the same age as Dick Grayson, who would already be an adult in the DCU, and I did not want to include any adults in the Teen Titans. This would also mean that in that world, Wally West could be the main Flash of the DCU. In this alternate world where the Batman is now a part of the DCU, the timeline would be a lot younger. Instead of an adult and the main Flash, Wally would be Kid Flash and new to the role. Starfire and Wonder Girl would all be teenagers and members of the Teen Titans, alongside Beast Boy, Raven, and Cyborg, all revolving around Dick Grayson's Robin, who would then become Nightwing as he is replaced by Jason Todd. Characters like Bart Allen and Cassandra Sandsmark, who were on that lineup, would not be introduced for a little while. And all things considered, for the Teen Titans, this would definitely work a lot better, since it allows them to adapt the most popular version of the team, with everybody being around the same ages as they should be, while if they go for the route that they're currently going for, it would be weird with the ages, how things are a bit different. They would have to maybe not include someone, or maybe include someone and they're not connected to who they are in the comics. It would be a little bit more messy. It's possible, but I think this would work just a bit better. Where this would fit a bit less is honestly just in places where it doesn't matter as much. If it adapts the comic 1-to-1, then Supergirl will be 21 years old in the year 2026, meaning she'd be a good amount of years older than the teenagers of the Teen Titans. But then again, to connect to international audiences, I think Supergirl might be going to get drunk as she turns 18 rather than 21, and so would only be like a year or two older than someone like Dick Grayson. Jaime Reyes would have debuted as Blue Beetle before any of the Teen Titans debuted, which is unusual, but everything about Blue Beetle seems to be earlier and older in any case, so I think that's fine. This would then affect the Arkham series, which as of right now is actually unclear if it's actually coming out, but if it does, instead of introducing new versions of the Batman Rogues Gallery, Paul Dano would appear as the Riddler, Barry Keoghan as the Joker, and maybe Colin Firth as the Penguin. Speaking of Penguin, the Penguin would then also be the first canon DCU TV show to be fully released, as it's coming out like 2 months before Creature Commandos. As of right now, the projects that have begun production don't really interfere with the potential of incorporating the Batman into the DCU as far as we know. Superman is unlikely to delve much into the timeline of Batman. It can definitely delve into the timeline of Superman, maybe with a reference here and there, which could ruin things. It's possible this version of Superman has been around for like 10 years, which would be way longer than this version of Batman. So we'll see if that's going to happen, but aside from that, there shouldn't be any issue. None of the other heroes appearing connect much to Batman, Robin, or the early generation of the Teen Titans. Then there's Peacemaker Season 2, and maybe a bit later, Waller, which could potentially both introduce Deathstroke, who can maybe mention a past with a potential Nightwing or Teen Titans, but all of that is entirely hypothetical. It's unconfirmed whether or not Slade will even appear in these projects or not, and the projects this change would affect the most, like The Brave and the Bold, Arkham, and Teen Titans, are a bit further away from production, and so changes I do think could still definitely be made. So all in all, yeah, I think the Batman and everything it established could still be incorporated into the DCU without contradicting anything, but it would certainly change a lot about the timeline and characters appearing in the DCU. Another question is, should it be? Well, honestly, I could go either way on this. On one hand, the timeline does feel a bit condensed in some parts, but also slow-moving in others. The Bat family would be a lot easier to introduce if it were pre-established, and I'd love to see characters like Damian Wayne and Cassandra Cain, since they're my favorite Robin and Batgirl respectively. And then I also just really want to see Wally West as the main Flash. On the other hand, we have this already established, very well cast Batman with a clear and unique visual aesthetic to both the suit and Gotham City, who seemed like he'd just be so perfect standing next to David Corenswet's Superman, and on top of that, this would just streamline the DCU a bit, making it far less overcrowded with sidekicks, and a much longer pre-established history. I'd love to see Dick Grayson as Robin, and then also have him team up with Batman and Superman, like the current World's Finest comics. That would be so cool to see, and then Robin becoming Nightwing. Done well this time, Titans. The ages of the Teen Titans would all fit in better with each other, and they could fully adapt the most popular lineup. And then, above all of that, frankly, it's just not smart to have two separate cinematic Batmen at the same time. Yes, it could be cool to see one grounded one and one fantastical one, but could also just be cool to see the Batman slowly becoming more fantastical over time, while still dealing with grounded threats from time to time, like Batman does in the comics. There's no reason why one version of Batman can't deal with both grounded and fantastical threats. Take Captain America in the MCU, for example. He goes from a grounded spy thriller in The Winter Soldier to fighting a bunch of robots, a robot army in the very next movie. It's entirely possible to do that. So basically, while I could go either way, I wouldn't be disappointed if they're going through with what they're planning and go with a new Batman. But I do think the pros of incorporating the Batman into the DCU outweigh the cons, as well as the pros of doing the opposite. So that is what I do. I would make it so that in 2026, the movie releasing is Batman the Brave and the Bold, featuring Bruce Wayne and his partner Dick Grayson as Robin, who became Robin 2 years prior, maybe right after the events of The Penguin. And then following up on that would be Teen Titans starring Dick Grayson, and maybe I would love to see a World's Finest movie starring all three. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Would you incorporate the Batman into the DCU, or are you okay with what they're doing, keeping them separate and introducing a new Batman and Damian Wayne? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.